In this video, we are talking about severe weather on the East Coast again. The Storm Prediction Center has put out a slight risk for severe weather with straight-line damaging winds being the main threats. Then, we're going to look into the future to figure out what Mother Nature has in store for us next. Welcome back, y'all. Ryan Hall here with the weather forecast. Just a quick reminder, if you like my hoodie, or if you like this SPC Outlook themed pillow, you can still get them on shop.helicity.co. There's a link in the description. Use the discount code Ryan Hall, y'all, to save 5%, okay? That's on your whole order. And I'm just a big fan of everything they have. So go check it out, shop.helicity.co. Now, let's start talking about the weather. All right, here's a big old look at the United States of America. We're looking at the satellite right now. And as you can see on the East Coast, everything's really active, okay? We've got this big upper level trough ejecting to the north and east, and that's going to allow for a streamlined inflow of moisture to the East Coast here. You can kind of see that flow from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up through Atlanta into Roanoke, Baltimore, New York. We're just getting pummeled in the upper levels of the atmosphere from rich moisture, and as this short wave moves through and interacts with that, buddy, we're going to get some storms with some really heavy rainfall and even the slight chance for tornadoes today. Let's take a closer look at that on the weather models. All right, here we are looking at the HRRR model. This is the high resolution rapid refresh model. This is what the radar could look like as we go into the future. It's not exactly what the radar is going to look like, okay? We call this a future radar, but it's just one model run. Things are going to change. If you want to keep up with the date and time, as always, it's going to be right up there above my head in Eastern time, okay? And we're starting off in the East today, which is something we haven't been able to do for a long time, but as you can see, we got a lot going on, okay? Our little low pressure system is somewhere over here, I think maybe right here, and that's going to eject to the northeast, and with that counterclockwise motion, once again, it's going to bring up all this moisture from the Gulf of Mexico and from the Atlantic Ocean, and combine that with cooler air from Canada, and right there along the axis, we are going to be seeing some severe weather, and there's two main areas of concern for me today. Now, the Storm Prediction Center has that slight risk of severe weather only in, the extreme eastern portion of this storm, but I do think right along the intersection point as this trough lifts up to the north and east, I do think we have a decent chance for some pretty good storms here in southern Ohio, maybe even southeastern Indiana, central Kentucky, and middle Tennessee. Over here today, guys, this is not going to be crazy. You're not going to see a bunch of severe weather. I wouldn't worry too much about it, but I do think that the ingredients are there for some of these storms to become a little bit more intense than your average garden variety thunderstorm, with some really heavy rain, maybe some cloud to ground lightning, and isolated problems with hail here and there. So let's put this radar into motion and let's see what's going on out here. As you can see, as we get into 3 o'clock p.m., these storms over here in the Ohio Valley are really starting to kick off with a line of storms possibly moving through eastern Kentucky. That's going to move through Prestonsburg and Pikeville, that region, eventually on into Williamson. Also back here towards Cincinnati, Lexington, Louisville, Owensboro, these areas in towards Bowling Green and western Kentucky, we're seeing some storms go up here. Some smaller storms scattered in nature are also popping up in central Ohio. I don't think those will be anything to really, worry about, but it's gonna rain pretty hard because of all the moisture that we have out there. We also have some scattered storms popping up down here in southern Louisiana and southeastern Texas. And then look here, this right here is also a really important area to watch. North Carolina, from Raleigh to Charlotte, all the way down into Columbia, South Carolina, maybe even as far south as Charleston, South Carolina, and towards the Savannah, Georgia region. We are going to watch a really intense area of moisture blow up down here. I want to show you once again the precipitable water values, okay? This is the amount of moisture in the air that is available to fall in the form of precipitation. Don't pay too close attention to the exact numbers. Just because this says 1.88 doesn't mean that's how much rain's going to fall, but just the warmer the colors here, the more juicy the atmosphere. And buddy, is it juicy down here in South Carolina and North Carolina. Basically all that means is that whenever these storms really start firing up today, whenever those updrafts occur and the condensation occurs and it starts raining, they're going to have so much moisture to work with. I would not be surprised if we saw some pretty significant localized flash flooding issues down there in North Carolina and South Carolina today. Anywhere where you see those brighter yellows or reds, there's just an insane amount of moisture in the atmosphere there, and it's going to come down on you hard, son. And let's keep pushing this forward, and as you can see right here, as we get closer to 6 p.m., These storms are moving through eastern Kentucky, eastern Ohio, now moving into the Charleston, West Virginia area. A lot of these will get kind of torn up once they cross through the axis of the Appalachian Mountains, so those will not be much of a problem for much longer. But now we're really watching this area over here where that slight risk of severe weather is. You can see there's a decent little line of storms here that's formed in southeastern Pennsylvania that will go through the Philadelphia area. Probably South Jersey has the best chance of seeing severe weather today, and then also Delaware, the Delmarva Peninsula, Washington D.C. Washington D.C. could get some storms today. I know we had a pretty intense thunderstorm the other day. I think there's another chance today that we might get a photogenic shelf cloud coming through if we get that linear mode of storms really trying to push through as quickly as what the HRRR thinks that it's going to. Let's keep pushing this into motion. You can see all this rain is still falling here in South Carolina and North Carolina, and it's kind of getting funneled to the north. And in fact, this right here is a big limiting factor on the storms to the north. You can see here around 8 p.m. today, we may have a line of storms moving through the Philadelphia region, Washington, D.C. These storms would likely be much bigger and more intense if this wasn't here, okay? All that moisture that's down here would be able to kind of impede further north if it wasn't being wrung out by the convection to the south, okay? So if you don't want big storms, especially not big rain-making storms today in Delaware, Jersey, and Maryland, thank this area of convection down here for kind of saving you, okay? We also have a little area of rain moving through eastern Ohio. That's going to move, it's going to try to move towards the Pittsburgh region, but once again, it's just going to be a moderate to heavy rain event. No big thunderstorms are expected. We also have these little lines of storms moving through upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. Once again, these are not going to be severe in nature today. Really, this line right here, this one, and maybe this cluster of storms right here is the one we really got to watch for the chances for some more significant weather as we go into the afternoon and evening. Now, if we go all the way to 4 a.m., everything's pretty much cleared out, but we're still seeing some heavy rain here in the Delmarva Peninsula, all the way down to Virginia Beach, Norfolk, and even as far south as Wilmington, North Carolina. Okay, so this right here, if you watched closely, this area of precipitation initially formed down here where that rich moisture is. Once again, like when this happens, we're going to be talking about big time rain, son. And you guys know me. I don't like overlooking the flash flooding threat, okay? So if you live out here in Delaware, South Jersey, maybe even southeastern Pennsylvania, through much of Maryland, eastern of Virginia, northeastern North Carolina, you've had a round of storms move through earlier. Now you're going to have another one in the overnight periods, closer to the early morning periods on Friday. If you live in a flood-prone area, be weather aware, because I do believe we're going to have some flash flooding issues out of this as this moves out of here. Then as we get into Friday, June 4th, around 5 p.m., we still got a little bit of this, the trough that's kind of sending waves of cold air down to the south and east, and we may have another area of convection with some isolated showers and thunderstorms on Friday. And then also you can see that's happening down here as well in Florida, in Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana. It's just kind of like this axis of moisture here that will be pushing to the south and east, and then behind it we're kind of clearing out as we got that cooler, drier air moving in. Let's take a look at the precipitation totals here and look where we should be paying the most attention to as far as flash flooding goes. Look here, the coast of North Carolina, right there around Virginia Beach, and then the southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula, southern Delaware, and once again, even southeastern Pennsylvania maybe are going to be under the gun for possibly seeing some flash flooding problems today. We also may see some problems in central South Carolina, and maybe a few isolated problems in south central Ohio down into eastern Kentucky. Okay, so be weather aware, be ready for that water to come up if you live somewhere where water comes up. Right now, let's take a look at the whole United States on the Euro model, and we're going to take a look at the instantaneous flash rate here to kind of map out where the storms are going to be in the future, okay? This is, once again, not what the radar is going to look like in the future. We're just using this model that shows us where areas of dense lightning strikes are possible to kind of help us determine what the pattern is going to be like as we go forward, okay? Now, here we are on Saturday, June 5th at 6 a.m. You can see all of our storms are kind of getting out of here to the south and east that we've been talking about over the past few days. And now what you're going to see is two main features here. There's two main things that are going to be controlling our weather over the next week or so. First of all, we've got this spinning area of air down here near the Gulf of Mexico that's just allowing for an incredible stream of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico to come up through eastern Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. And in this area, I think that literally over the next couple days to possibly a week, you are going to be inundated by rain. all right? It's just not gonna stop. Every single day, you're gonna have that 50% chance of thunderstorms, and you know, one day one will pop up on top of you and drop a daggone downpour. It might cause some flash flooding issues. The next day, it may be sunny, but you know, periodically, you're gonna see rain over here because literally just the amount of moisture in the air, even the smallest little temperature fluctuation on the surface is going to be able to create an updraft and cause an isolated shower and thunderstorm. So that's kind of the pattern you're gonna be stuck with down here. Additionally, we've got this big ridge forming up here with very warm air in the East Coast, and we've got a little bit of, you know, cooler air trying to work its way into the northwestern parts of Canada over here, especially in northern Saskatchewan. That's kind of like riding down the ridge on the northern side there, and it's kind of creating a motion like this where we're going to start seeing storm systems or areas of precipitation, I should say, form like this and then move to the south and east. This is a typical pattern we see in June. I think it's finally going to allow for some traditional severe weather up here in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, these areas. And you'll see what I'm talking about as we go forward. Let's put this into motion. And as you can see here on Saturday, June 5th, around 2 or 3 p.m., we've got all this stuff coming together, right? We've got the pop-up showers and thunderstorms down here in Florida and Georgia, like we always see in the summer. And then we've got this axis of temperature boundaries up here in the north. We're possibly going to see some storms in North Dakota, Minnesota, the upper peninsula of Michigan, all the way down into Ontario and Quebec, okay? Watch this area closely as we go forward. You're going to see the moisture really try to, you know, spark up there as we go into the daylight heating times in the future. You can almost see the rotational element of this on the instantaneous flash rate. We got, you know, storms over here because the Gulf of Mexico is sending the moisture up that way. We got storms over here because of the, you know, the cyclonic rotations kind of interfering with whatever's going on over here. And then once again, we've got a little bit of a cold front that's formed up along our axis of temperature boundary up here, and that's probably going to bring some pretty strong storms to the Duluth area. Also through much of Ontario, that might make it into the panhandle of or the upper peninsula of Michigan once again. And then as I push this forward, you can just kind of see that rotational element right here. We got all kinds of you know, rain and scattered thunderstorms up here, and then it kind of just stops along this boundary up here as this sends storms off to the south and east. And it looks like our next significant area of, you know, like actual like a storm system moving through that we need to watch is going to be on Friday, June 11th, or Saturday, somewhere in that time frame, as we get a pretty significant storm up here in Canada that's going to try to trail down a cold front that could spark additional low pressure systems along a trough and then cause these southeasternly moving storms. This right here is how we typically get our derechos. I'm not saying we're going to get a derecho, don't freak out, but like it's patterns like this where we typically see those kinds of storms fire up. So if you live, you know, in this area right here, get ready for that as we head later on into June. And that's all the weather talk I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I really appreciate it. If you like the video, make sure you obliterate that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn notifications on. Additionally, if you haven't become a channel member yet, make sure you do that right now. Tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern, we're going to go live with a super in-depth class on how to read weather models, specifically the HRRR, and we're going to look at severe weather parameters like convective available potential energy. We're going to look at helicity updraft tracks, and we're going to obviously look at the composite reflectivity and stuff like that. So if you want to, you know, tune in for that and learn a little bit, make sure you become a member now. That's all I got for you. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.